I stood in my kitchen that Thursday morning, the scent of fresh-baked banh mi and spring rolls filling the air, and carefully packed everything into containers. My hands moved with practiced ease, wrapping each item with the same care I'd shown for 30 years of cooking for my family. The po I'd simmered since dawn released steam into the cool morning air, rich with star anise and cinnamon. I ladled it into a thermal container, making sure Ethan and Olivia would have enough for dinner, plus leftovers for the next day. My son had always loved my cooking. Even as a boy, Ethan would sit at the kitchen counter swinging his legs and asking when dinner would be ready. Now he had his own family, his own home just 15 minutes away, and I still cooked for him every week. Old habits, I suppose. Or maybe just a mother's love that doesn't know when to quit. I loaded everything into my car and drove through the familiar streets to their house in the suburbs. The neighborhood was quiet, tree-lined, the kind of place where people mowed their lawns on Saturday mornings and waved to each other from driveways. I'd helped with the down payment on this house. Olivia didn't know that, of course. Ethan had asked me to keep it between us, said it would be easier that way. I should have known then. I knocked on the door, balancing the bags of food in my arms. Lucas answered, his 5-year-old face breaking into the brightest smile I'd seen all week. "Grandma Margaret!" He threw his arms around my legs, nearly toppling me backward. "Did you bring spring rolls? Please say you brought spring rolls." "Of course I did. Sweetheart." I ruffled his hair, dark like his father's, but with his mother's green eyes. "Would I ever forget your favourite?" "Olivia!" I called out, stepping into the entryway. "I brought dinner for you all. Where should I put these?" My daughter-in-law appeared from the living room, her face arranged in that smile she reserved for me, the one that never quite reached her eyes. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall and slender with perfectly styled blonde hair and a wardrobe that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Ethan had been so proud when he brought her home, like he'd won some kind of prize. "Oh, Margaret, you didn't have to do that." Her voice was honey-sweet, but I'd learned to hear the dismissiveness underneath. "We're so busy. I'm not sure when we'll have time to eat homemade food." Time to eat. As if eating was some luxury appointment they had to schedule between tennis lessons and cocktail parties. "It's no trouble," I said, keeping my own smile firmly in place. "I made enough for several meals. The PHO freezes beautifully, and the spring rolls are best fresh. So maybe you could have those tonight." "Mm-hmm." Olivia took the bags from my hands without really looking at them. "I'll just put these in the kitchen. Lucas, go play in your room, sweetie." "But I want to stay with Grandma Margaret." "Now, Lucas." Her voice sharpened, and I watched my grandson's face fall as he trudged toward the stairs. "Can I stay for a cup of tea?" I asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it anyway. "Actually, I have a yoga class in 20 minutes, and I need to shower first." "Maybe next time." Olivia was already steering me toward the door, her hand light but insistent on my elbow. I found myself back on the porch before I could even say goodbye to Lucas. The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt like a slam. I sat in my car for a moment watching the house. Through the kitchen window, I could see Olivia moving around. Something about her movements caught my attention. I waited, engine off, feeling slightly foolish but unable to look away. Then I saw it. Olivia opened the containers one by one, barely glancing at the contents, and scraped everything directly into the trash. The pho I'd started at 5 in the morning. The spring rolls I'd carefully wrapped, the banh mi I'd baked fresh, all of it straight into the garbage bin. She tied up the bag with sharp, efficient movements and carried it outside to the larger bin by the garage. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. Heat flooded my face, a mixture of humiliation and rage that made my vision blur for a moment. But I didn't drive away. I sat there, breathing slowly, watching my daughter-in-law dust off her hands and return inside like she'd just accomplished some minor household chore. That evening, Ethan called. "Hey, Mom. Olivia told me you dropped off food earlier. That's really sweet of you." Did you eat any of it? I asked, my voice carefully neutral. Oh, we didn't get to it yet. We had dinner plans already, you know? Olivia's book club thing, but we'll definitely have it tomorrow. Liar. Or maybe just oblivious. I couldn't decide which was worse. Ethan, sweetheart, I need to ask you something. Does Olivia like my cooking? A pause. Too long. Of course she does, Mom. Why would you ask that? No reason, just wondering. After I hung up, I sat in my living room for a long time, looking at the photos on my mantel. Ethan as a baby, gap-toothed in first grade, graduating high school, his wedding day. In that last photo, he looked so happy, his arm around Olivia's waist, both of them laughing at something off camera. I'd paid for half that wedding too. Another secret I was supposed to keep. I'd spent my whole life taking care of my son. His father left when Ethan was 2, and I'd worked double shifts at the hospital, come home exhausted, and still made sure my boy had home-cooked meals, help with homework, clean clothes, everything he needed. I'd sacrificed dates, vacations, my own dreams, because being his mother was the most important thing in my world. And now I wasn't even worth the courtesy of honesty. But as I sat there in the growing darkness, my anger began to crystallize into something else, something sharper, more purposeful. I thought about Lucas, sweet Lucas with his genuine smiles and his love for my spring rolls. He deserved better than to grow up thinking this was how you treated people who loved you. He deserved to see what real gratitude looked like and what happened when you showed none. I spent the next week planning. The following Saturday, I invited Ethan, Olivia, and Lucas to my house for what I called a family appreciation day. I told them I wanted to celebrate family, to bring everyone together for games, food, and quality time. Olivia sounded reluctant on the phone, but Ethan's enthusiasm pushed her into agreeing. I also invited my neighbour Paula and her husband James, my cousin Teresa and her wife Michelle, and 2 other families from the neighbourhood whose kids played with Lucas at the park. I told everyone to bring their favourite dish to share, turning it into a potluck celebration. By the time Saturday afternoon arrived, my backyard was transformed. I'd strung lights through the trees, set up tables covered with colourful cloths, and arranged seating areas all around. The weather cooperated beautifully, warm sun and a gentle breeze. People arrived with casseroles, salads, desserts, and drinks. The yard filled with laughter and conversation. Olivia arrived wearing designer sunglasses and a sundress that probably cost more than my monthly utilities. She surveyed the gathering with barely concealed disdain, her lips pursed as she took in the modest, cheerful chaos of a real family gathering. "Margaret, this is quite a crowd," she said, her tone suggesting I'd committed some social faux pas. I thought this was just family. These people are family, I said simply. Maybe not by blood, but by choice and love. There's a difference. Ethan, oblivious as always, was already helping himself to the buffet table. Lucas ran off to play with the other children, his laughter ringing out across the yard. I'd planned everything carefully. As the afternoon progressed, I made sure people were talking, sharing stories about their favourite family recipes and food memories. Paula told a touching story about her grandmother's apple pie recipe that she'd almost lost when her grandmother passed. James talked about learning to make his mother's tamales, spending hours in the kitchen to get them just right. "Food is love, isn't it?" Teresa said, her arm around Michelle. "It's how we show care for each other. Taking time to prepare something, thinking about what someone likes, making sure they're fed and happy. That's family right there." I watched Olivia shift uncomfortably, picking at her salad. Then I brought out my own contributions to the potluck. Spring rolls, banh mi, and a beautiful pot of pho, the same things I'd brought to Olivia's house the week before. I set them on the table with quiet ceremony. "These are some of my specialties," I announced to the group. "Recipes I learned from my mother, that she learned from hers. They take time, but they're made with love." People crowded around, exclaiming over the food, filling their plates. Within minutes, half of it was gone, people coming back for seconds and thirds. "Margaret, this pho is incredible," Paula said, her eyes closed in appreciation. The depth of flavour, the spices, you must have started this so early. 5 in the morning, I said, making sure my voice carried. That's when you start if you want the broth to be perfect. 5 in the morning? Michelle shook her head in amazement. That's dedication right there. Whoever gets to eat your cooking regularly is incredibly lucky. I let my gaze drift to Olivia, just for a moment. She was staring at her plate, a flush creeping up her neck. Lucas appeared at my elbow, tugging on my sleeve. Grandma Margaret, can I have more spring rolls? They're the best thing ever. Of course, sweetheart. I plated several for him, adding some of the peanut sauce he loved. He took them to a nearby bench, and I noticed he was sitting next to a little girl about his age, one of the neighbour's daughters. They were chatting away, sharing food, laughing. Children, I thought, understood instinctively what some adults forgot, that sharing a meal was an act of friendship, of connection. As the afternoon wore on, I steered the conversation deliberately. I asked people to share their thoughts about gratitude, about appreciating the people in their lives. The responses were heartfelt and genuine. These were people who understood the value of what they had, who didn't take love and care for granted. You know, James said, his deep voice rumbling with conviction. My mama used to say that you show me how you treat my food, I'll show you how you are as a person. Someone who wastes food, who throws away what's given with love, that person's got something missing inside. Amen to that, Paula added. It's about respect. Basic human respect. Olivia's face had gone from flushed to pale. She set down her fork with a sharp clink. It was time. I turned to Lucas, who had finished his spring rolls and was watching the adults with curious eyes. Lucas, sweetheart, can you come here for a moment? He bounded over, all energy and innocence. Lucas, you love Grandma Margaret's spring rolls, don't you? They're my favourite. He nodded enthusiastically. And what would you think if someone threw them away? Just tossed them in the garbage without even tasting them? His face scrunched up in confusion and horror. That would be so mean. Why would anyone do that? I don't know, sweetheart. Why don't you ask your mother? The yard had gone very quiet. Everyone was looking at us now, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Lucas turned to Olivia, his green eyes wide and innocent. Mommy, Grandma Margaret brings us food all the time, right? The spring rolls and the soup and everything? Olivia's voice was strained. Yes, Lucas. Sometimes. Do we eat it? Lucas, this isn't the time. Because I saw you throw it away last week. His voice was matter of fact, the way children are when they don't yet understand the weight of truth. You put all the containers in the trash. I wanted the spring rolls, but you said they were garbage. The silence was absolute. Olivia stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped over. Lucas, that's not... You misunderstood. But Lucas wasn't finished. He looked around at all the adults, his face troubled. Mommy is always throwing away Grandma Margaret's food. She says it's not good enough for us. But everyone here thinks it's amazing. He turned back to his mother, his young face confused and hurt. Why do you throw away things that are made with love? Out of the mouths of babes. Olivia's face cycled through several shades of red and white. I don't have to explain myself to a child. Margaret, I don't know what kind of stunt this is, but it's inappropriate and manipulative. Is it? I kept my voice gentle, but I made sure everyone could hear me. Is it manipulative to want my family to be honest with me? To ask for basic respect? You've been throwing away my food for months, Olivia. Months, and you never once told me the truth. You let me wake up at dawn, spend hours cooking, drive to your house with hope in my heart, and then you dumped it all in the trash the moment I left. You were watching me. Her voice rose, defensive and angry. I saw you once. Once was enough. But Lucas just confirmed it's been happening all along. Ethan, who had been frozen in shock, finally found his voice. Olivia? Is this true? She whirled on him. Your mother's food is too heavy, too ethnic, too old-fashioned. I can't serve that to our friends. What would they think? Old-fashioned? Teresa's voice cut through like a knife. Too ethnic? Girl, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. That kind of talk is not okay. I didn't mean... Olivia backtracked, but the damage was done. I walked closer to her and I made sure to look her directly in the eyes. When I spoke, my voice was quiet but clear, each word deliberate. For 30 years, I worked myself to the bone to raise my son. I gave up everything so he could have a good life. I taught him to value hard work, honesty, and gratitude. And when he married you, I welcomed you with open arms. I helped with your down payment. I babysat Lucas whenever you asked. I cooked meals so you wouldn't have to worry about dinner after long days, and you repaid me by treating my efforts like garbage. Literally. Tears stung my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. What breaks my heart isn't just that you wasted my food, it's that you taught my grandson that love can be thrown away. That effort doesn't matter, that the people who care about you are disposable. Lucas was crying now, soft, hiccuping sobs. He ran to me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I'm sorry, Grandma Margaret. I didn't know it was bad. I should have told Daddy. I hugged him close, stroking his hair. You're not the one who should be sorry, sweetheart. You're perfect, just as you are. Olivia looked around at the circle of faces, all watching her with varying degrees of disapproval and disappointment. Some people shook their heads. Paula had her arm around James, whispering something that made him frown deeply. I think, Ethan said slowly, his voice thick with emotion, that you owe my mother an apology. A real one. Ethan, don't you dare take her side over mine. She's my mother, he shouted it, and I realized I'd never heard my son raise his voice to his wife before. She's my mother, and she's done nothing but love us and support us, and you've been treating her like she's nothing. Like her time and effort and love don't matter at all. Olivia's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I took a deep breath and straightened my shoulders. I'm not asking for groveling, Olivia. I'm asking for basic human decency. If you don't like my cooking, fine. Tell me. I'm an adult. I can handle honesty. What I can't handle, what I won't accept, is being lied to and disrespected in my own family. Lucas pulled away from me slightly, looking up at his mother with eyes far too wise for 5 years old. Mommy, if I grow up and treat my wife's mom the way you treat Grandma Margaret, will that be okay? The question landed like a bomb. Olivia's face crumpled. She sank back into her chair, covering her face with her hands. For a long moment, no one moved. Then I heard it, muffled but unmistakable. She was crying. When she finally looked up, her makeup was smeared, her perfect facade completely shattered. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Margaret. I waited. I thought, her voice broke, I thought I had to be perfect, that everything had to be Instagram-worthy and impressive. My mother was like that, always judging, always critical. Nothing was ever good enough. And I became just like her. She looked at Lucas, fresh tears streaming down her face. I became exactly what I hated. The honesty in her voice, the raw pain, cut through my anger like nothing else could have. I threw away your food because I was ashamed, she continued. Ashamed that I couldn't make anything half as good. Ashamed that my own mother never taught me to cook because she thought it was beneath us. Ashamed that you were better at taking care of my family than I was. Ethan moved to her side, crouching down beside her chair. Olivia, why didn't you tell me any of this? Because you think I'm perfect, she sobbed. You married me because I was polished and put together, and I was so afraid that if you saw the real me, the broken, insecure me, you'd leave. I felt my heart soften despite everything. I recognized that fear. I'd felt it myself years ago when Ethan's father walked out, the terror of not being enough. I pulled out the chair next to her and sat down. Olivia, look at me. She raised her tear-stained face. Being perfect is exhausting, and it's lonely. And it's a lie that nobody can maintain forever. I reached out and took her hand. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see a woman who's trying so hard to be something she thinks she's supposed to be that she's forgotten who she actually is. I don't even know who that is anymore, she whispered. Then maybe it's time to figure it out. And maybe, if you want, I could help. Her eyes widened. After everything I did, you'd still... You're my grandson's mother. My son loves you. That makes you family, whether I like it or not. I managed a small smile. But family means honesty. It means showing up as your real self, not some polished version you think people want to see. Can you do that? She nodded, squeezing my hand. I can try. Lucas climbed into his mother's lap, wrapping his small arms around her neck. I love you, Mommy. Even when you're not perfect. Olivia burst into fresh tears, but these ones seemed cleaner somehow. Like a release rather than a breakdown. The tension in the yard finally broke. Paula started clearing plates, and other people began moving around again, giving us space while pretending not to watch. Teresa caught my eye and gave me a subtle thumbs up. Over the next hour, the party gradually wound down. People said their goodbyes, hugging me and whispering words of support. When everyone had left except Ethan, Olivia, and Lucas, we sat together at one of the tables, the evening light golden and warm around us. I want to learn, Olivia said suddenly. To cook, I mean. Would you teach me? Really teach me, not just watch once and pretend I understand? I considered her carefully. She met my gaze this time, no deflection, no fake smile, just raw, honest hope. Every Sunday, I said. You come to my house and we'll cook together, just us. No pressure, no judgment. We'll start with the basics and work our way up. What about me? Lucas piped up. Can I come too? Absolutely, I said, ruffling his hair. Every good cook needs a helper who's willing to taste test. Ethan reached across the table and took my hand. Mum, I'm sorry. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you. You're seeing it now, I said gently. That's what matters. We can't change the past, but we can do better going forward. That night, after they'd gone home, I sat in my kitchen and made myself a cup of tea. The house was quiet, but it felt different than usual. Not lonely, peaceful. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Thank you for not giving up on me. See you Sunday. What should I bring? I smiled and typed back. Just yourself. And an appetite for learning. 3 months later, my kitchen had become Sunday headquarters. Olivia arrived every week without fail, usually early, eager to learn. We'd started with simple things, scrambled eggs, basic stir-fries, how to properly season and taste as you go. Lucas was our official taste tester, and his enthusiastic reactions gave Olivia confidence she'd never had before. She was actually good at it, once she stopped being afraid of making mistakes. Her spring rolls weren't as tight as mine yet, but they were improving every week. More importantly, she'd stopped trying to be perfect and started enjoying the process. Ethan told me that she'd cleared out half her designer wardrobe and started dressing in clothes she actually liked, not just what looked good on social media. She'd quit the book club where she'd never felt comfortable and joined a cooking class at the community centre instead. Last Sunday, Olivia made ficho from scratch for the first time. She'd started the broth at 5 in the morning, texting me photos and questions throughout the morning. When Ethan and Lucas tried it that evening, she called me immediately, breathless with excitement. They loved it. Margaret, they actually loved it. Ethan said it was almost as good as yours. Almost, I teased. You've got more work to do then. Her laugh was bright and genuine. I'll get there. I've got a good teacher. But the real victory came 2 weeks ago. Olivia invited me over for dinner, her first attempt at hosting a meal entirely on her own. When I arrived, the table was set simply but beautifully, with flowers from her garden and mismatched plates that actually had character instead of being designer perfection. She'd made 3 of my recipes, the ones she'd once thrown away without tasting. The spring rolls, the banh mi, and a simplified version of the ficho. Everything was slightly imperfect, wonderfully real, and absolutely delicious. To family, Ethan said, raising his glass. The real kind built on honesty and love. To Grandma Margaret, Lucas added, for teaching Mommy how to cook and how to be nice. Olivia's eyes met mine across the table and I saw tears there, but happy ones this time. Grateful ones. To second chances, she said softly, and to the people who give them even when they're not deserved. I raised my own glass. To learning that gratitude isn't something you're born with, it's something you choose every single day. And to the family members brave enough to teach us when we forget. As we ate, Lucas chatted away about his day at school. Ethan and Olivia shared glances that spoke of renewed connection, and I felt something settle in my chest. This was what I'd been fighting for. Not perfection. Not even an apology, really. Just this. Honest connection, real effort, and love that showed up in spring rolls made at 5 in the morning. Gratitude isn't automatic. Respect isn't a given. But with patience, honesty, and sometimes a well-timed lesson delivered by a 5-year-old's innocent truth-telling, families can heal. They can grow. They can become something better than they were. And that, I thought, watching my daughter-in-law serve her son the food she'd made with her own hands, was worth every early morning, every careful lesson, every moment of hope that things could change. Because they had.